Hey guys, this is Ari Sauer, the Immigration Answer Man, and I'm coming to you live again so that I can bring you an update about recent news in immigration law. This is a new thing that I'm trying here, so hopefully I'll be able to give you some good information. And please, if you have questions, please ask those questions. If you're watching, please make a comment, let me know you're there. I definitely prefer an interactive live session than me just talking out to you. So, in the past week or two, what has happened in immigration law? Well, first, Reince Priebus, who was the White House Chief of Staff for, I believe, a week, he was fired. The reason why this is especially important is because his replacement, the new White House Chief of Staff, is General John Kelly. Previous to this, General John Kelly was the Secretary of Department of Homeland Security. So now in his place, he is being replaced by the acting Secretary of Homeland Security, who is Elaine Duke. But the question then becomes, who's going to fill their place permanently? And there's been a few names thrown out there. So far, the names that I've seen thrown out there were Attorney General Jeff Sessions. We have Chris Kobach. We have Michael McCall. We have Acting ICE Director Thomas Homan. We have Senator Rick Perry. And of course, we have Elaine Duke as a possibility to fill the place more permanently. She's the least controversial of all of those options, so it may be that the president will choose her over the others. We're hoping to see some good things from her. She's been working for several presidents previously, so it seems like the least partisan option would be for Elaine Duke to stay in that position. Also, this past week, we had ICE announce 18 new sheriff's departments in Texas that signed up for the 287G program. For those of you that don't know, the 287G program is a program that allows for local police to become deputized as ICE officers. So it makes local police ICE officers in those areas where they sign up for it. Again, if you're joining us now, please comment, ask questions. I'd love to make this interactive. Let's see, the number, so now there are currently 60 local governments that have signed up for the 287G program. When President Trump took office, there were 38 agencies signed up. So that number is going up, but there are a lot of local governments that have no interest in being involved in the 287G program for various reasons. Mostly they feel that it is hurtful to the police ability to capture criminals when you have so many people in their city who are afraid of the police. Hi Lorena, thank you for joining us. And Sharon, do they still need warrants? Sharon asked, do they still need warrants to enter your home if they're real police officers? So warrants, it doesn't change whether you're a police officer or whether you are an ICE officer. You need a warrant to enter someone's home uninvited. So I think probably the best piece of advice, and also it's important to understand that there's a difference between types of warrants. There is an immigration warrant, and there is a judicial issued warrant, a judge issued warrant. And for either police or ICE or anybody to enter your home without your permission, they need a judicial warrant. So that's important to understand, that just because ICE shows you, or police in those 287G cities shows you a warrant, you want to verify that that's a judicial warrant. So if you're unsure, kind of the rule you can follow is don't open the door. If you're in the house and you don't open the door, if it's not a judicial warrant, they can't come in unless you open the door. If it is a judicial warrant, then they're coming in. They'll break down your door. But at least that way, if they have that type of warrant, they'll come in. But if they don't, they aren't able to come in. But it happens a lot of times. People open the door. They without realizing it, give permission for immigration to come in, or they think they didn't. They say they didn't, and immigration says they did, and it's a he said she said situation, which we want to avoid. So if you do have someone approach your house, and first question, don't open the door. Ask to see a warrant. If you have any questions about the warrant, you should have an immigration lawyer that you are comfortable with, that you can call up. All right. So, in relation to just the timing happens to be wonderful. In relation to the 18 new sheriff's department that signed up in Texas for the 287G program, we also had this past week where former sheriff in Arizona, Joe Arpaio, was convicted of criminal contempt. The conviction was because he continued to have his officers. Sorry about that. He continued to have his officers. That's the fun of Facebook Live. It is all live, unedited. Okay. Oh, so someone asked about the 287G program. What's the program I'm referring to? Again, the 287G program is a federal program that allows local governments to sign up to join with ICE. Basically, police officers in those areas are, either all the police officers or some of the police officers. They're given some training and they're deputized as ICE officers. So again, currently there are only 60 local governments that are signed up for this. Most are not. It's a program that kind of went defunct during the Obama administration, but now ICE is trying to bring it back. All right, so I was saying that Sheriff Joe Arpaio was found guilty, was convicted of criminal contempt because he ignored the federal judge's order to stop detaining immigrants on, with very little basis to detain them. He will be facing up to 6 months in prison. So far, he has recently said that he does not plan to appeal to the president to try and get a pardon. We'll see what happens with that. But again, he's only facing up to 6 months. That's a lot, but I think he hopes that he'll get less, I'm sure. But if he gets the 6 months, I'm sure he probably will consider that a badge of honor. All right. What else? Okay. Well, about 2 weeks ago, Attorney General Jeff Sessions announced that they would be implementing a program which would take away federal funding to local governments who do not open up their prisons to ICE and who do not give ICE 48 hours notice before they release someone who is a potential immigrant. Of course, a lot of local governments rely on those federal fundings. This week, Chicago announced that they were filing suit, or actually I think they've actually filed suit against the Attorney General's office to stop them from implementing that program. And the state of California is considering whether to either join that suit or file a suit themselves against it as well. All right. Acting ICE Director Thomas Homan announced in an interview last week that that ICE would be going after employers, would be changing their focus to go after employers who hire immigrants without status, without work authorization. So if you're an employer, if you work in HR, you need to make sure that your company completes I-9 forms for all employees and that they're all in order. We don't know to what extent they're planning on going after employers, but they have announced a shift in their focus. I'm just reading a question. All right, so the question was, do I think there's a light at the end of the tunnel with DACA? Well, there's a potential light at the end of the tunnel for DACA, and that is the DREAM Act of 2017. I'm going to go into that in a second, go over what is in the DREAM Act, just a general overview. But I have a little bit more information to go through before then. All right, another lawsuit was filed in the D.C. District Court, this one by diversity visa lottery winners from the 6 countries in the executive order, Iran, Syria, Sudan, Yemen, Somalia, and Libya. The issue is that those who are chosen in the diversity visa lottery, it is a lottery that allows for 50,000 visas each year given to people from those countries where there are less people from those countries coming into the U.S., underrepresented. And they go through a process. It's a lottery. If they're chosen, then they have to get their visas or adjustment of status within by the end of the fiscal year, so by the end of September of the appropriate year. Now, the problem is that the Department of State has been holding these cases and has not been issuing visas for people from the nationals from these 6 countries. Again, it's Iran, Syria, Sudan, Yemen, Somalia, and Libya. And so these people, even though they've won the lottery, if they aren't able to get their visa by the end of the fiscal year, they're going to lose that opportunity. So they filed suit to get the courts to make the government issue visas instead of holding up their cases based on their nationality. All right. Probably the biggest news that's happened this past week is the introduction of the RAISE Act by Senators Tom Cotton and Sonny Perdue. This is a very bad bill for a number of reasons. Just understand right now it is just a bill. It is not law. It has to go through Congress and Senate and Congress and be voted on by both houses and be signed into law by the president to become law. But the RAISE Act is very poorly written, and what they think it does, it cuts immigration by half, legal immigration by half. In reality, it's going to make it even worse because what it does is it does away with all family-based categories except for spouses and minor children of U.S. citizens and spouses and minor children of permanent residents. And it changes what a minor child is. Currently, a child is a minor if they are under 21. This will change it to under 18. The vast majority of people who are waiting in line for a family-based petition are going to lose their chance to get a visa. Also, it is on the employment-based side, it is throwing out the whole employment-based current system and is creating a point system. Under the point system, it's based on the age of the applicant, the education of the applicant, if the person has an offer of employment, the salary, how high it is compared to the median household salary of the state. So it depends on the state you live in. Other factors are if you have a Nobel Prize or if you've won an Olympic medal or comparable. But the most important thing is, well, first of all, another thing is it cuts the number of visas available to 88,000 from the current number, which is 140. So it cuts the numbers, but then it creates a system where it pretty much the only people that are going to be able to get visas under this system will be someone who's in their 20s or 30s, has a PhD in a STEM category from a U.S. institution, has a very high-paying salary, and is fluent in English. While the system allows for a 30 points will allow you to apply, people who apply with 30 points are not going to get a visa under this system because there's going to be people with much higher points that will get it. So it really creates a system where, we were going through in our office, most of the people in our office wouldn't even have the 30 points. And if they did, we're in the low range of that, so that even if we got that 30 points, it's unlikely that we would be able to get one of the limited number of visas. All right. So I'm going to share some information below on how to contact your senator and your congressman to tell them not that you are against the RAISE Act and not to support it. I think it's important that we get our voices heard because there's a lot of misinformation about this. I'm not against a point system, but this point system is not workable. It is aimed at a very specific group of people, young STEM graduates, which maybe right now we need more STEM graduates, but what happens in 10, 15 years when we've done a better job as a country of getting home-growing STEM graduates, and this system is still in place, and all it can do is bring in more STEM graduates to compete against the people that we have here, and doesn't allow for a change for those areas where we do need more workers from abroad. So there's no check system. It's not based on whether or not there's an actual need for a particular job or a particular area. The current system that we have now is not perfect, but it is based on a showing that you can't fill the position with a U.S. worker. And there's nothing like that here in this bill. All it does is allow young STEM graduates to come in. All right. Also, this is more than a week ago, but in good news, there is the DREAM Act of 2017. Again, still a bill, so I encourage you to call your senators and congressmen and ask them to support the DREAM Act. What it would do would allow those with DACA, as well as a more expanded category, to obtain conditional residence. So in order to get the conditional residence, you have to be under 18 when you came to the U.S. You have to be continuously physically present in the U.S. For the 4 years prior to the enactment of the bill. You have to be, there are a number of criminal and security reasons why someone wouldn't be eligible for this. So I'm not going to go into detail here. You have to be admitted to an institute of higher education or enrolled in high school or a GED program, or have earned a high school degree or a GED program, or earned a degree from an institute of higher education. So those that are eligible get conditional permanent residence for up to 8 years. During those 8 years, if you meet certain qualifications, that can become permanent residence. Permanent residence is the green card. So you must meet certain education, employment, or military service requirements, and you have to be able to pass an English test and a civics test, and if you can do those, and you have to not have become inadmissible based on the criminal and security issues. And if you do that, you're able to get you do that within 8 years, you're able to get permanent residence. Christian, I hope that answered your question. If anybody has any other questions, I'm happy to take a moment to answer any questions or talk about whatever anybody wants to bring up. If you haven't already seen it, I suggest you take a look. Lower down on my Facebook page is a video that me and some of the attorneys from my office, Lily Axelrod and Adam Cohen, that we did for where we answered people's questions. We talked about the RAISE Act and some other issues. I think that went really well, so I think we're going to try and do that again if there's an interest. If you have questions that you would like us to address when we do it again, I think we may do it probably not this week, but hopefully next week we'll do it. Please send me a message with your question, or you can post here, and we're happy to talk about whatever issues you have. Again, if there's anybody else out there, feel free to say hi, and feel free to post any questions or other issues that you'd like me to talk about. I think that we covered most of the news. And if there's interest in this, please let me know, and I'd be happy to do this again in future weeks. All right. Thank you very much. Make sure to share and like, and make sure to follow my Facebook page, The Immigration Answer Man. Thank you.